Hello, my name is Rebecca Skillen, and this is CC Cycle 1, Week 8. We only have 4 more weeks, 9, 10, 11, 12, 4 more weeks until we are at the end of the semester. It is flying by so fast. So let's get down to business of what worked and what didn't this week. So for the start of the day, we always start this way with prayer and affirmations. And last week, also known as Sunday, when I posted this video, I realized that I messed up the affirmations just a little bit. So let's see if I can remember them. They are behind me. I might cheat. So affirmations: God loves me and he thinks that I am amazing. I am kind and I am an encourager. My mouth speaks kind words. My heart obeys and does what is right. My mind is smart and I love to learn. I will do my best. I think is all of them. Yep. Okay. So then it's off to geography, which this week is the Indus River Valley. If you have your timeline cards, timeline card number 6 specifically goes over the Indus River Valley. So if that's something that you want to read over to prepare for your week, or if you are a student, a mom in the class, and you want to go over a little bit more in detail, here's your timeline card for geography. In geography this week, I did not do a song, I did a story. And when you are looking at your map, we are doing the Arabian Sea, the Bay of Bengal, the Great Indian Desert, the Ganges River, and the Himalayas. In this, we knew that the Arabian Desert, we knew where the Arabian Desert was, and we just talked about how the Arabian Sea is very near the Arabian Desert. And the Bay of Bengal, we talked about reading left to right. So we have the Arabian Sea on the left and the Bay of Bengal on the right. I talked to them about this country of India and how it splits the Arabian Sea and the Bay of Bengal. And then we went on kind of the version of going on a bear hunt. So we started in the Bay of Bengal and we were swimming around the Bay of Bengal. Then we went down, down across the tip, swam down the tip of India into the Arabian Sea. And at that point, we were getting kind of tired. And so the little notch in India, we talked about how we're gonna jump out of the Arabian Sea and dry off in the Great Indian Desert. And our goal is to get to the Himalayas. So we walked through the Indian Desert, we paddled across the Ganges River, and then we climbed up the Himalayas, and we looked out for all, looked for all that we could see. And then we just kind of went all the way backwards. We climbed down the Himalayas, paddled across the Ganges River, went to the Great Indian Desert. It's fine, Maeve. Into the Arabian Sea and back over to the Bay of Bengal. And we just did that over and over for probably more than 7 times, but this year I'm really putting an emphasis on geography because it was a very significant weak point for me in cycle 2. Cycle 3, I learned some new things, but I was very aware of the United States. My family did a lot of traveling when I was a kid, so that wasn't as foreign to me as cycle 2 with a lot of focus on Europe. So I'm really trying to make a focus on geography this year. After geography and we picked up all of our maps, we moved on to math, and we are so excited that we are only doing 1 multiplication table at a time right now. So my kids love that agility ladder. Did the agility ladder 7 times, 5 times of multiplication facts, 2 times of skip counting. I told them we have 1 more week of the 15s to do the equations, and then after that, for the squares and cubes, my kids get to skip count every single time. So I am really looking forward to that because I know they're going to be much happier with that. So math, and then we moved on to prepositions. My kids repeat the whole preposition song, and I use some of our tin whistle of doing this when we get to the last one for this week. So they just start from the very beginning and go, and then we do of, so just sign language of, so O-F, off, on to, like you're getting on to ride a horse, so on to, and then out. So off, of, off, on to, out. Then it was on to science. What are some types of seed plants? Some types of seed plants are monocot, dicot, conifer. And the one thing I did bring out, we talked about how, I forgot to tell them in class, like corn on the cob, when you pull off one of the corn seeds, that's a corn seed and that's a monocot. You can't cut that in half and see two parts. It doesn't have two parts of cotyledon. So with a dicot, we talked about how that was like the baby bean that we dissected. And the conifer, this is not the seed. The seed actually sits in the cone. And this conifer seed does not match this pine cone. This was a pine cone I picked up somewhere else, and I had these pine cone seeds from a white pine. But just to demonstrate the concept of that it sits in the pine cone. And that is something that I learned, about a month ago. So I am still learning with my kids. So I brought that for them. Then we kind of just went to a relaxing day. This pumpkin was a volunteer pumpkin from our front flower garden. We had pumpkins in our flower garden last year. They decomposed, and one of the seeds produced a pumpkin vine. We got one pumpkin. This pumpkin got passed around in a circle, and we reviewed the Latin third declensions one time, and then they sat in a circle, and while we played the Latin song twice, they sang the song and we passed the pumpkin around. We went right into history, and with history, tell me about the age of imperialism. They were still seated, and this went well. So we spoke the song, spoke the history sentence, and then as the song played, they passed the pumpkin around. We realized that it was fun to make sure that to pass it for each word, and if the word was longer, you still held on to the pumpkin until the next word. At one point, some people were doing syllables, but they were singing the whole song and engaged, and we just passed the pumpkin around. It was not written on at that time. It was just a pumpkin. So it was just a nice, relaxed, a little bit more relaxed than what we've done in the past, because the song lended to just kind of listening and attending to the song than like for me really trying to act it out. One of the ideas that I had, if this didn't flow from Latin into history, was every time that they heard the word India, to do the sign language for India, which is this. So, we would have tried that. We played hide and seek with our timeline cards. So we sang the timeline, and then I was like, wait a minute, where are my cards? And my daughter had hidden them in the morning. So they all found the cards, and we sang the song while they were all finding the cards, because of course they were in absolute plain sight. There was one or two that they actually had to look for. And then when we found all the cards, then we sang the song and they handed them to me in order. So that is how we did timeline. Let's see, make sure we got everything. So that was our morning, and it went really well. We had costume day today, so I came as an X-ray of a vertebrate. Last year this costume worked great because we were studying the body and the skeletal system. So we moved on to tin whistle, and for tin whistle, We started with our tin whistles in their sleep sacks. All of my kids, except for 2, have either the plastic bag that their tin whistle came in, or they have a sleeping bag for the tin whistle. So everybody's tin whistles came out of their bags, so we had them ready, but they sat in their sleep sacks. At that point, we reviewed, I had mine out and they could see theirs, but we talked about the parts of the tin whistle. We had 2 people that were absent for last week, so we reviewed our tin whistle parts. Then I had them draw their tin whistle. So this is a drawing that I did last year or the year before, and I just keep it every year. Yes, my tin whistle is not conical, it is cylindrical, but this was my drawing of it. So the kids, some of them freehanded their tin whistle, others traced their tin whistle, so they got that cone shape. And so they just practiced the grammar of the tin whistle. Then we talked about dynamics, because I know that the tin whistle is not designed for dynamics, and I didn't want to attempt that. So we sang our song, and then I'm just going to make sure that I have my notes here. Yeah. So we sang the song in as quietly as we could. We sang the whole song, and we talked about how that was different than last week. And so then I introduced them to the dynamics: pianissimo, piano, mezzo piano, mezzo forte, forte, and fortissimo, in that order. And then we talked about, like, what do you think pianissimo means? And so we said that was the quietest you could ever make. The sound is there, but it's the quietest you could. And so we talked about piano's a little bit louder, mezzo piano is a little bit louder than that, mezzo forte, forte, and fortissimo. So then this was a very organic thing that happened, and I took a picture of it for reference for later. And you probably won't be able to see this, but this is a picture of my whiteboard. So we talked about pianissimo, and we said that was like a movie theater voice, where you're probably not supposed to be talking anyways, but if you need to, like, tell somebody you're going to the bathroom, you wouldn't want the whole theater to know that, so you'd be extremely quiet. Piano is more like a museum voice, or if you're in the library, it's okay to talk, but you don't want to be extremely loud. And then we decided that mezzo piano is your dinner table voice. It's where you're having fun, you're talking, but maybe you don't want the whole, if you're out in public, you don't want the whole restaurant to know, what's going on at your table. Or they don't need to know what's going on at your table. So mezzo forte, we talked about when you're presenting, when you're giving your presentation, that it needs to be loud enough to be heard, but we're not going to be shouting at our audience. So mezzo forte. Forte, we said that's your outside voice. That's your voice when you're playing on the playground, at recess, after lunch, outside, just having a blast. There's not really a huge sound limit to it. It's loud. And then for fortissimo, we said that's your voice you use at a sporting event or a rock concert where it's really loud, so you have to be really, really loud too. And one of the moms said it's like speaking over the lawnmower. So this was a lot of fun. It didn't take a lot of time. And so since we had a reference point of what those sounds were, then we went through and we sang the first line of Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. And we sang it pianissimo, piano, mezzo piano, mezzo forte, forte, and fortissimo. I'm not sure if I let them go to fortissimo when we just sang it. Yeah, I think I did. But I told my kids who have sensitive ears to cover their ears before we got there. And we talked about how that's not something that we're going to do regularly in class inside. So after that, we decided that we were going to sing the song, and as we're singing the song, I would point to different dynamics and they would adjust their sound. So we started super, super quiet, And then after the first, Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, then maybe I jumped to Forte. And then we just jumped back and forth as they sang the song. It was a lot of fun. It went over really, really well. They were super engaged, which was the whole point of the experience. At that point, then they were allowed to get their tin whistles out, and we practiced through finger placement, covering the finger holes, and playing our song. So initially I just had them play the first measure because I have 2 kids who haven't done tin whistle, and they weren't there last week. So there was lots of encouragement, lots of kind words, and at the end it actually sounded like a song. I let them, after we played the first measure and then we played the first line, then I let those who wanted to participate as a group play the whole song. I'm sorry, before that I let each individual kid, if they wanted to, play the first 2 measures. And then we played the whole song together. And like I said, it actually sounded like a song. It was really awesome. At the end of tin whistle time, I do let them play Cacophony for about 4 to 6 beats. And then we turn it off. Tin whistles went away and we went on to our nature hike. I had found a handout that I just kind of screenshotted for myself and showed them what a monocot seed plant might have. And what we found was that monocots have those parallel veining. They're usually long and long leaves, and their flower parts are usually a multiple of 3, whereas a dicot is going to have a net-like veining in their leaf, and they're usually in 4. Their petals of a flower are usually in 4 and 5. And then of course pine cones. We didn't have any pine cones. We didn't see any on our walk. Just the nature of where we're at. Though I see them a lot in other places, but not on the property that we were on. And so we had a lot of fun walking around. We opened up an acorn. We found one that was rotted. We found another one that we could open it up and see the I can't say the word, the food for the seed. Looks like it's a dicot. The leaves indicate that it's a dicot. And we also found a grub or a larva inside the acorn. So we found an animal too, part of the animal classifications, animal kingdoms. We found fungi. We found, we counted petals on an echinacea plant. We saw hostas. We just saw a lot of fun things. We opened up some seeds. We found some seed pods, and just kind of enjoyed just being outside as well. I think it was a really good break for us because our seasons we had a significant cold snap where we're at. And so it's definitely fall, and a cold, wet, damp fall today. And so it was good to just be outside and enjoy that. We came back inside and we started for a review. So this is where I say what works and what didn't work. My kids have been doing like alien face, and we did a sea creature. And so my thought was that we would draw on the pumpkin. And initially I thought about ears and mouths, but I thought, oh, well, let's be extra creative and let's do the oils. So if you roll a dice and it's a 1 or a 4, then you could draw the O or the circles. If you roll a 2 and a 5, then maybe you, just writ 5 or a 2, then you would do the I, so the dot or the straight line. 6 and 3 would be angled lines, and 4 would be curved lines. They got a little confused. So they didn't like my abstractness. So after one round of that, I realized this is not enjoyable for them. So I just let them on their turn do some sort of design. Had them do 2 sets of questions before we did the rolling, because we had a full 7 weeks of review to do today. And so I just wanted to make sure that we got in what we needed. So this wasn't as, I think they still enjoyed the time and having the pumpkin there. But it didn't go exactly how much fun I thought it was going to be. I do have a plan possibly for November to bring a pumpkin and have them for each of their turns write something that they're thankful for. So each time we answer a set of questions, then they each get to write on the pumpkin something they're thankful for. I don't know if it's going to work. I don't know if I'm going to do it, but that's an idea that I have. I don't know. So that is week 8. And like I said, 4 more weeks and we are done for the semester. I cannot believe it. So I hope you have a wonderful week and enjoy the fall weather if you have it.